Namaste to all of you. Welcome back to the Force Niyama podcast. Join me in the third episode of the interview with a practitioner and a highly regarded teacher of Iyengar Yoga, Neeta Datta. In this episode, Neeta speaks about the meaning of svādhyāya, self-study, and why it is essential to give yourself time to observe. Neeta says, when we are with ourselves, by ourselves, that is when we will have some way to connect with ourselves. In yoga, each time you're in a pose and you are with yourself, you learn something about yourself. When you start connecting, things start happening. May this interview be of help in your own journey.
There will be many ways, many approaches to go to your destination, which is come too close to yourself.
Yeah, accept your limitations and walk with
Yes.
humility.
Yes. And also, it's not that we have limitations. It's not, but the thing is, we are limiting ourselves the day we think that we are good, great, best, superlative, whatever. So that is what I'm saying. That is more important. Not that we all have the potential within us. So no, you don't have to say I'm accepting my limitations. I have this potential. I haven't still even come close to this bit. I have to be going that direction and continue to walk that path or find avenues within me. That is important. Limitations, it limits you. No, this is expanding you because you are expanding your horizons. That is important. It's like, again, in the West, we have this, or, half full, glass is half full, half empty. And you've heard Guruji say, which was very unique, which is the glass is full, always full, because it has air also. So how you look at things, the perspective changes. So no, you're not limiting yourself, but you have ways to go and you have to go that direction or find your path. And the path, yes, for most of it will be treaded upon, but eventually the fine tuning will still come to you. Walking the path, treading the path will always be in the beginning. You walk the path which is walked upon. So we all need our teachers, our guru. And if the teacher limits you, then something's wrong. Because Guruji never limited us. He never limited us in that sense, because he gave us this. And even if you were learning something, if he saw something, that's why even through his students, you've heard him say that through his students also he learned a lot. How do you learn from your students? Because you observe your student and you realize, wait, this is how this person did it. They may not realize it because they just did it, but you are capable of understanding, of realizing it, and so you are learning. You see, so we don't limit ourselves. He never limited himself till the end. And I think that's a huge lesson. Forget anything else. I mean, this is, I'm telling you because of the word you use, not to get, but this is how it kind of opens up. It tells me that, yeah, this is important, because when you said it, there are many who would say this. So that's another look at it. We have ways to go, and we should walk that path. We should continue. And along the way, Guruji also mentioned that there are times when we are practicing again, generally loosely termed practices, your practice of 2 hours, 3 hours, but that's really not yoga. But let's stick to that. Even in that, for now, in this particular moment, even there, we will find that there are times when you are practicing and there is stagnation. You don't see progress. That happens. And that doesn't mean that you should go feel bad, sad, awful, whatever. But the thing is, why that will happen. And this is how I give again, I'll give example. In most countries, I don't know, but in the US, especially California, because we live in earthquake prone zone, it's different from India, but I'll give this example. So when people start building homes, just houses, in the beginning, there is a lot of digging that is done for the foundation. I mean, whatever, if it's a 2-story house, the house, there will be a foundation for 2-story or whatever it is. But then what you see is suddenly there are times when you see a lot of wooden frames coming up. And those frames, believe it or not, you go out for 2 days or 3 days and you come back and you see the whole structure is ready, or sometimes within a week. And you feel, wow, this thing came up so fast. Our practice is sometimes that way. When we start practicing and you see progress in the beginning, it is like that wooden frame. It just stands out. And you think, wow, I've come up a long ways. Then comes a time when you see that they have put dry walls and stuff and whatever around to cover it, and then it is, you feel that it is stuck for months together, 2 months, 3 months together. So what happens for us also, we don't see any progress. We don't see with our eyes the progress, or you don't feel that, oh, I can touch, so if I'm giving an example, say touching my toe, and you feel, wait, I didn't go beyond. You see, so you realize that. But realize one thing, that while that house was being, you see no progress, but inside they were working on electricity, they were working on water pipes, they were working on other things which you couldn't see. So for 4 months they were working on things which we couldn't see. So it's almost like that is this thing structure which is just standing there, nothing is happening. The same way within us, there will be a time where sometimes this structuring is taking place, this thing is taking place, these connections which you cannot see. But you will only feel or experience these way later. Now, way is again a word which, again, maybe 2 months down the road, or 10 months down the road, or 10 years down the road. I don't know. But you will experience and feel and realize this much later, that this was what was happening, which I couldn't see. And you will see this in your students or in your friends or even in yourself. Forget everybody else. You will see changes which you may not have realized. Like, I have students come and tell me, students, they are not teachers, and they'll tell me, oh, I went to India. An Indian lady comes and tells me, I went to India. I saw my mom, and my mom's like, she sees me every time, and this time she's telling me, what happened to you? You were always feisty and you just fight back and argue with me. This is a good change in you. And she's like, Neeta, I didn't realize it, but then I realized it was yoga. So she actually, it's not that she's not feisty or anything, but that's useless arguments. You go here, she kind of became a little more, maybe mature, maybe a little more calmer, maybe age helped her. She felt that, Neeta, it was all due to yoga. But that's the only thing that has changed in my life. Everything else was same, but my practice has improved. All these things which we don't know, which we don't see, there are a lot of things happening. And even when we observe ourselves, or even when you assist, even as a teacher assisting another teacher, those things which you absorb are so many, we don't even realize it. It is way later in time you realize, wait, I didn't realize. When did I change? Until somebody brings to your notice.
Neeta, as you know, the name of this project is the fourth niyama, which is a direct reference to Patanjali Yoga Sutras, to svādhyāya, self-study. What does svādhyāya mean to you? And what advice would you give to yoga practitioners today who are seeking to deepen their practice and understanding of the subject?
Laughing because I think most of it was svādhyāya so far. So I feel svādhyāya for me is an understanding. That there was trying to understand myself, my reactions, the way I behave, and so it is more of introspection, which happened. I mean, it happens. It's an ongoing process. It's never like it happens in your yoga practice. But I'll tell you something, that it does happen in day-to-day life, in every life, if we give ourselves that time to observe. The thing is, people are so caught up in that worldly mundanities of life that they don't even realize it. They don't even know themselves. Let's put it this way. Again, I'll digress a little bit, but I see it here, and I think I saw it in India too this time, that people, when they go for their walk and jogs and whatever, they have their headphones. Sometimes the headphones are so that you are quiet, which is great. But sometimes they have these headphones more because there's music going on or something, which means you don't even give that time to be with yourself. Okay. So all I'm trying to say is that, so I think when we are with ourselves, by ourselves, that is when we will have some way to connect with ourselves. And that doesn't mean that you have to be out somewhere walking or jogging or something. You can be in your, say, practicing trikonasana, practicing sarvangasana, being in that pose itself, you start connecting. And so each time you connect, you learn something about not just the pose. This is where we get stuck. Poses, sure, it's true. We do learn a lot about the pose. We understand a lot about the pose, but we get stuck. But you go beyond the pose, which is you start connecting, which is why, in essence, unknowingly we take yoga. I took yoga definitely because my father brought us there. Did you ask me, did I want to know myself? I don't know at the time. Did I know myself or don't know myself? I don't know. Maybe I thought I knew myself. You start introspecting, because when you start connecting, you start connecting not just with yourself, you start observing yourself with surroundings, environment, or even just within myself. What am I there? When you start connecting, things start happening and you start learning, and this translates into your practice. When I'm learning in the sense in my practice, when I'm observing myself, when I'm teaching, so there is introspection, but these are limited introspections. The one which goes is beyond is when you start connecting with something which is higher than just your consciousness, more deeper. Now, I'm not saying I've reached or not. I don't know. I don't think so. But what I'm saying is at least the journey is happening. My mind is fortunately a major game changer, because it's the mind which can draw you outward, same mind drawing you inward. So it's the mind. And so that when we start understanding, I'm not there at all, but at least I am attempting, I'm treading that path. I'm walking that path, and I feel so at least it gives me somewhat some understanding. But I do realize there are some things when people tell me about myself, not that I need to know, but like, oh, Neeta, like something about myself. And they also tell me, like, maybe I'm very strong about some things or whatever. And you realize that all this is not just you by yourself, it wouldn't have been. This is a lot of things which are happening, underlying, happening through my practice, through my svādhyāya. Through my svādhyāya is the self-study of me, literally, but more not just my nature and me, but in trying to understand so much more, the vastness. And that I think comes from introspection. But that connecting with me brings so much understanding, and you start, it's very interesting because there is so much similarity in everything in life. There is so much, like I can give you this example of, like I said, the building, but that happens in anything you do. There is that stage where there is a lot, you will see progress, and then there is stagnation, and then you will continue, and all these things are so similar, so identical in some manner. All we need to do is observe. And when we understand that, you're not fighting anything. And that's the beauty. Because in fighting, we create aggression, even within ourselves and with people around us, wherever it is. So, like I feel sometimes I tell students that one aggressive cell is as good as you have in this. If it's a huge classroom, all you need is one person who's totally disruptive because he's agitated or she's agitated. Or you need just a little child who's cranky and crying in that class. What happens? Everything is disturbed. It's not the fault of the child. Understand that. I'm not looking at that. What I'm trying to bring out is, so one agitated cell can do this to us. That mind has that capacity to do this to us. But once you realize this, it keeps you in a better state. And then you are better with others too. So it's not a hypothetical thing. It can happen. And we see it in ourselves if we choose to. And so for me, I think svādhyāya is really self-study. And I know that it takes you to a way deeper level than what you can see. Because these things you don't see. It is only when you go through some experiences or some situations you realize, wait, normally I would have reacted this way. I didn't. And that I would know it's because of my self-study. So yes, practice of yoga is very important. That yoga, we should not limit it to just asana of 2 hours. but it continues because that svādhyāya continues. That connection with ourself has to continue, at least when we have the chance to continue. As I'm talking to you, I remember because I use the word rigidity. And I'll give you one example. This is the reason I'm giving you this example is I'm sure people go through similar situations in life. So I'll tell you when my kids were little. So it's something to do with the kids, something to do with, you're living a householder's life, So the kids were very little. We used to live by the beach. So weekend, Saturday, Sunday, generally Saturdays, we would go to the beach because we were walking distance, kind of. We'd still take the car, but so we would go there and every time, and the kids would have fun and we'd come back. But every Saturday I would feel somewhere, I would have fun. I'd come home, have a good time with them, but there was something which was kind of not good. And I would get irritated. And every time I'd realize why it's only on Saturdays that I get irritated. Anyway, so again, some sort of introspection. Okay, now this is different, but I'm just connecting this. So this was that introspection at the time. And I'm thinking, why? It went on for 2, 3 months. One day I realized why. And this is very interesting because for me, after I came from India to the US, every day it's important for me to practice yoga. Okay, so I would practice. But I realized this that what was happening to me was I would feel unhappy, irritated at myself for not being able to practice those Saturdays. So I had become rigid in my mindset. I'm telling you this because these are little things. And I'd become so rigid that for me, I did not practice. And so, oh, this is just wrong. This is just wrong. That because I wasn't practicing, I was getting irritated. I enjoyed every minute of it with the kids. I mean, I enjoyed every Saturday. But what was making me unhappy, irritated, was that I couldn't practice. And then one day, after 3 months, which means as many Saturdays that I missed, it dawned on me. So what if I did not practice that one day? Is that only form of practice? Is spending time and good time being with my children, being one in the sense at that moment we were all so together, enjoying thoroughly. Is that not important? Is that not yoga? And then the moment I realized that, after that, there was not a single Saturday that I was unhappy. I was very happy, even though I missed yoga. And I remember sometimes when kids would go to India when they were older, after 12, they would go on their own during their holidays, and I would go at other times. And I remember one of them telling me, Guruji asked, how's your mom practicing? And actually now, Guruji, she's practicing all 7 days of the week. Sometimes people, and I have heard this, okay, I don't know for sure because it's internal life, people's life, but I've heard from some students, some people, that they also have family problems where mainly, and sometimes it goes as far as separation, divorce, whatever. I'm that may be rare cases, but there are happening. And that is all because, oh, I cannot do my yoga, I cannot practice my yoga. I think it is important to understand yoga unites people, it joins, it connects not just people, it connects you to yourself. Like that agitated cell within me, that thought within me had actually separated me from myself. Mm-hmm. Whereas this actually brings, now I was very much at peace. Never made me feel guilty. Why should I be guilty? So those things are equally important because I've had one student, actually the wife managed to get my email address from her husband to write to me that, Neeta, please tell my husband, I don't know how, but my husband practices with closed doors. My son is 5 years old and he wants to be in the room with his dad because he wants to practice. And what has happened is that he closes the door. My son hates yoga because my son is very unhappy with his dad. And he's just a student, completely a student, never. I mean, he's just an engineer doing well in whatever he's doing. And it's just that, but he thinks that is yoga. These are the things, these are our understandings of what yoga is. That is not what yoga is. Even in our practice, we cannot make it a ritual. Sure, it can be a ritual. For beginners, it should be a ritual, I'll tell you, because, okay, 3 days a week, I'm going to practice. Maybe not today, tomorrow. Make it a ritual, because then you learn to form a habit. So that's okay. That's nothing wrong. But eventually, even those rituals have to be shedded off, because in that ritual, we don't connect. Yoga never does this, or should not be doing it. That means there is something wrong in our understanding of yoga, not yoga. So with that, I feel, yeah, so that I learned a lot from Guruji. There is no way I can, books will be insufficient, because mind will just keep on extracting something more from the brain. But yeah, sometimes so there is see, everything is a fine line.
Yeah.
There's always a fine line. So sometimes what happens is we want to fall back on excuses. You see, I mean, I'm not saying you or me, I'm saying general, okay? So sometimes what will happen is we can go and fall back on these as excuses, which is what we don't want. But that is something we have to learn to discriminate. That's the art we have to develop. And I'll tell you, just being, again, it's a blessing. When we were in France with Guruji, Birju, myself, Jawar, we were all there. And I remember, so we were at Birja's place at the time in Paris. The way the story goes, a story, I just say it as a story, but that's what it seems now for people. So I'm just saying it. So what happened is we were part of entourage with Guruji, Birju, Jawar, and myself. And we were at Birja's in his apartment in Paris. And you know, Parisian apartments are very small. There was one bedroom, basically, one main, whatever room you call it. And there's a small, really small, kitchenette like, and then there was a bathroom. That's it. This was when Birya was a bachelor, and then, of course, he married, and then he was still there. But the room, which was the main bedroom, was given to, obviously, Guruji. So Guruji was there, and then there was this other room where Birju, Jawar, and Birya. We call him Birya because Guruji used to call him Birya, but Faik. So they used to be sleeping there. And Corinne and myself, we would go to some student's place or some friend's place, which was quite a long distance away. And we would go and we would sleep there. We were supposed to be in Paris for, I don't know, few days, like 7 days, 6 days, 5 days. So we would go there, and then we would sleep there and come back in the morning. And by the time we come back, it's a journey. So Guruji said, why are these people doing it? Why can't they sleep here? Why can't you all sleep here in this room? This room is big enough. Understand now this. So other people would have thought, oh, men in this room, Guruji's room, this, that, I mean, for Indians, it's not a big thing. Okay. Generally, for Indians, it wasn't a big thing. 2 days later or 3 days later, we are sleeping in that room where all of us are there, Birya, Corinne, Jawar, Birju, myself, we are all there, and we're sleeping in that room and everything is fine. Now what happens is, because we are so many people, can we all practice in that same room? Also, Guruji is in Paris. Virya wants to show Guruji Paris. So Guruji gets up, people make, generally, because it was Faik's place, he would make coffee, or Corinne would make coffee. Guruji's up, everyone is up, and then coffee is made, and just things. And they would be practicing pranayam, and then we would be practicing. And later, yes, practice, yoga practice, and sometimes we couldn't. And so we couldn't. But at the time, we realized that you don't have to be rigid, because we were going there so that they can have room, etc., etc. And these things are important, because at the time, what was important? We are all together. We are with Guruji. We spend time. We do things, and we are learning along the way. These are lessons which are untold, because they're just way of life. You see, in Guru Shishya Parampara, back in when they used to live in ashrama, what was this? They learned all these things, which we don't. And at least fortunately for us, some of us, I would say, because today even that is going in India. But some of us who were there, at least you could see that, because you spent some time away from just the yoga lessons, what Guruji taught in those 2 hours, versus the other things which we see about Guruji. Those things people don't see. They don't see he was a human being. And I think it's really important to understand that there was no rigidity about it. He was determined in his practice, but he wasn't rigid about it. There were so many things about him. So I feel these are really important to understand, that we cannot be rigid like this.
Yeah, breaking rigidity is important in anything we do.
anything. And so yoga, actually more so in yoga, because yoga really is, it really, when we talk about, people will define yoga as connection and joining and binding. And if you bring rigidity, how can you connect? Isn't it? We create a wall between us and something else, either within ourselves. And so those are the things, they're so, those things which are so beautiful are the untold things, unspoken. And those things are, like, I feel more important, yoga lessons you will still get. But even in that lesson, if you go beyond, because I remember there, I had some student come, it was a while ago, and she comes and tells, but Neeta, I think it was, I'm just giving a name of a pose, say, or the Matsyendrasana. Oh, but you said this, and this is how Light on Yoga says. So I said, okay. I mean, and this comes from a certain part of West where people are very, very rigid. And so she was like, so there are two things. So she says this. And I said, okay, just do this now. Just do it now. Observe what I'm saying. I give her that. She does it. No, it feels, but no, but this is what Light on Yoga says. I said, okay. But she was a regular student of my class. Next week when I see her, or whenever I see her, I bring her Ashtadal Yog Mala. I don't have to prove anything, but I bring her this book. I show her some whatever it was, and I say, okay. See, it didn't even dawn on me it was in Ashtadal Yog Mala or something, but I just gave her this mainly. I said, realize this, that what you are doing is you're limiting. So I'm not saying that this book was, but that book was written with something in mind. In Ashtadal Yogmala, Guruji has gone way beyond. He's connecting so much beyond. That book was written for, now it is a beautiful book, we all know, but it was written to get people to learn yoga. Ashtadal has gone way beyond. It's not just yoga, what we know as in poses, it's gone way beyond. Now, when you're going for this pose, what is the effect? You have to understand how it builds you. You have to understand. So the thing is, you have to be open to learning. Guruji may have said it, you didn't know. It's like in the court of law, I cannot say, I wasn't aware of this law. That's not the excuse which will be taken. They won't let you go free because I didn't know that I could be punished for stealing. So that's ridiculous. But you see what I'm trying to say? So no, don't go by this fixed ideas, because you won't realize. But if you experienced, if you've learned, beginning, sure, we have. Now I go back again. Now I'm going to contradict something. And why I'm doing it again, for people to understand. This woman, she's not from the US, but she was here for a few years, maybe moved back again, I don't know. But what was happening is, when she came to the US, she felt that she could learn from so many different teachers. I don't know. For the longest time, when she came to even assist me, I didn't know that she was attending so many workshops. Nothing wrong, nothing right. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing. I'm just saying this is a fact. So what happened? She would go to one teacher's, she would go to another teacher, she'd go to third teacher. And I remember my students getting annoyed with her, because they'll afterwards they'll send me mails or talk to me, let me know why she is so disruptive. Why does she ask these questions which are pertaining to something that you've never taught? And I didn't realize this, because I knew she would attend one or two, but I didn't know she was jumping all over. So what was happening here, I'm trying to give you this. So somewhere rigidity is important, somewhere it's not important. And I'm trying to explain this. Again, there was a time when, and I'm quoting Gitaji mainly, it's not just me saying something. She's talking to me and she said, yeah, people should not be going to so many teachers for workshops. I said, Gitaji, how can I say no? Or how can anyone say no? You are free to do what you want. In essence, you are free to go to 10 teachers if you want. How can anybody stop you? So, and you cannot be rigid saying, don't come here, which means now she won't, not because I lose a student, I don't care. But I do care if she doesn't learn to understand what is yoga. Not just the yogic definition, but that deeper meaning. So what I'm trying to say is, so this woman wasn't ready to learn with 10 teachers. And I give this example because in elementary school, you will always have one teacher teaching you everything. It could be PE, PT, whatever you call it. It could be arts, it could be crafts, it could be science, it could be history. Why? Because the child can only learn with one teacher so that it can learn. At the time, it's just learning so much different things. So, one teacher, you don't want to add one more variable because second teacher comes, third teacher comes, there is confusion now. I teach something differently. Same topic may be taught in what we call environmental science or nature study or something else, whereas for other teacher might be covering the same thing in science differently. And the child gets confused. So you just have one teacher teaching everything in the beginning. Once you go middle school, you will have students going to different teachers or different teachers coming to the students for different science class or math class, because now the teachers are specialized to teach only science or teach only math or whatever it is. Now, these people don't understand in yoga. So what happens is, if you go with 10, I don't say one teacher is good or bad. No, nobody's good, nobody's bad. But go with that one teacher. Why? So that you are not confused. So once you are really, your foundation is laid, you can go to 20 teachers, 100 teachers, but your foundation is there. But while in the formative periods, if you're going to one teacher, you're going to another teacher, you're going to a third teacher, what do you end up doing? You end up messing up. So that time, it is important to have restrictions. Either the community gives you that restriction or you, because you are an adult, in essence you are an adult, so we cannot say don't do it, but you understand that you are a student in that field, a child, like a child in elementary school, and that I am not capable as yet to jump to different teachers. I sit with one teacher for some time. If I don't understand, I can ask or go. But when you go through those things where you call workshops or whatever it is, and you just keep on doing that, you don't build yourself at all. All you are doing is collecting, storing knowledge. What it's not knowledge really, but information in your brain. You don't connect with anything. Again, that is not yoga. Those fine things are not going to be written. They have to be experienced, and you have to be able to open your eyes and see this. I see some of these things. That's why I'm telling you this particular incident, or the incident of the parent not wanting the child to be in the room. And I've heard some other instances where the child, he must be, I don't know, in his 40s, 50s, he's still didn't like his mom, mainly because she would always be in Sirshasana. She never had time for me, which may not be true. But for the child, it is true, because that is when the child may have needed the mom. You see, that is his perspective. But that perspective is true to him. It may not be true to the mom. And so we have to realize these things. And so until we don't realize these things, yoga, yes, yoga, instead of binding families, binding people, bringing people together, joining, even in communities, even in the yoga communities, you hear these things. So and so teacher teaches this way. So and so teacher teaches this way. No, but that's her perspective or his perspective. Why? That is what they have taken, but that doesn't mean they are different. It is not going to be coming overnight. What will come overnight are some stretches, like people say, some poses which people say, but it's not yoga.
It was extremely insightful.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you,
Well,
Neeta.
nice to speak with you. Hopefully we'll meet up soon.
Yes. Take care.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. This was Neeta Datta. I have been so nourished by this conversation. Neeta's genuine insights and guidance really touched me and led to some self-reflection about my own yoga practice. May you all find abundant support for your own yoga practice through this project, and may it be an inspiration for you in your own svādhyāya. If you have a specific question that you'd like to ask a senior Iyengar Yoga teacher, feel free to share your question with me on the svādhyāya Instagram page or by email at hello@theforceniyama.com. Thank you for tuning in and see you in the next episode.